really great opportunity for us to get with all of the new vendors.
CEO Catherine Monson sets the pace for FASTSIGNS steady growth.
Thank you so much.
With over 550 locations, the company continues to expand the brand.
We've identified 20 different countries that are targets for our expanded international growth.
After taking over the helm during the depths of the recession, Monson hit the road to meet with struggling franchise partners.
There's no reason to be stuck in a corporate office and not know what's really happening out in the field.
Oh my God!
In 2012, the CEO scaled great heights to get a unique perspective of the company, posing as a new hire for an episode of Undercover Boss. Monson says lessons learned from the show are shaping the company's future.
If you think about it, any company or organization that needs to inform, direct, or sell needs our products and services. So there is a huge world out there for us to play in.
Catherine, what does it take to become a franchise partner of FASTSIGNS?
Well, first it takes the interest and desire to be your own boss and run your own business. One of the great things about franchising, it allows people to achieve the American dream of business ownership and building wealth for their family. And so that's the first thing. You have to want to do that. And not everybody wants to run their own show. Not everybody wants to be their own boss. And then from there, we're looking for someone with some kind of management, sales, marketing, project management experience, and the desire to grow a successful business.
I think you said also that you need to think about what kind of life you want. I mean, do you want to have a store that's open all the time, day and night, a restaurant? Do you want 5 days a week?
One of the real advantages of being a FASTSIGNS franchisee over, say, a food concept or a retail concept is we have a business-to-business model. So our locations are open Monday through Friday, typically 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, depending on what part of the country you're in. So our franchisees have that great 5-day-a-week operating model. And then we also have a small staffing model. The way that our business is staffed, you typically start with a couple employees, grow to maybe 5 or 6 or 7 employees, and that is also a very appealing kind of a model, as opposed to if you think about staffing a restaurant, you might have 50 employees just to run those 3 meals a day. So we offer a really great business-to-business lifestyle for our franchise partners.
What's the franchise fee?
Well, our franchise fee is $37,500, all in, including working capital, startup costs, and deposits. You can get into this business for about $225,000. We have a $6 million credit facility with Franchise America Finance. So we can really get financing for anybody that fits that credit box, and they can get in business with as little as $80,000 liquid cash. So we've put together a great package that gets them off quickly in business, very affordable, and then on their way to owning a very successful location.
Well, you want them to have $80,000 in liquid cash, as you said, and you want them to have a net worth of about $250,000. Is that right?
That's exactly right. So anybody with $80,000 cash, liquid net worth of $250,000, and a credit score of about 700 or better, and we can get them financed with our Franchise America Finance credit facility.
Through the Small Business Administration.
Exactly right. It's a Small Business Administration guaranteed loan.
And the average gross, the average revenues are about $700,000, is that right?
Exactly right. Our average unit volume, taking into account all locations, is $664,000. That includes the guys who just opened in business very, very recently. Our highest volume location did $7 million in sales last year.
This is in California?
Actually, that particular one is in Tennessee.
Oh, really?
But we have several $1 million plus locations in California.
What can you expect to earn for yourself?
So if we take a look at our average franchisee, they bring about 17.5% to the bottom line, owner's discretionary profit. And if we look at our profit leaders, that would be the 25% most profitable or the top quartile in profitability. They bring about 28.4% to the bottom line.
And then they pay a royalty each year, is that right? To you, to your company.
So in order to be a FASTSIGNS and have the power and the scope and the scale of our brand, they pay us in exchange a royalty. And that's a 6% royalty on their sales and a 2% to the ad fund. So
You mean advertising?
advertising. We have an ad fund and they pay a 2% ad fee. Just look at the ad fund. It's a $7.5 million fund this year. Our franchisees are represented with TV commercials on CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC. We have banner ads on those same 3 networks. We have a very powerful website. We invest a lot in search engine optimization and pay-per-click programs. We have a very active social media program. So we have lots of things that we do to generate brand awareness and to generate trial at our franchise locations.
Well, you went to FASTSIGNS in 2009.
Great time to start at the helm.
Incredible time. You were hired by Rourke
Exactly
Capital
right.
in Atlanta. Does it still own the company?
Absolutely, still does, yes. They've owned, Rourke Capital Group has owned FASTSIGNS since December of 2003.
Really? Well, that's a long time for private equity. I was thinking they might be about to sell, that you've brought it up to a point where they can get their money.
I suppose one of these days they're going to sell us, but they just are so pleased with this investment, and we continue to perform very, very well for them. I suppose that'll be their decision when they sell us.
Yeah. Well, it was founded 25 years ago by Gary
right.
Solomon and Bob Schoenbaum.
Yes.
And Gary was leaving, and it was falling apart. The Great Recession had hit. Sales were down 17%. Franchisees were canceling right and left. What did you do?
Well, first I have to say hats off to Gary Solomon. He and Bob Schoenbaum created an amazing brand, and unfortunately Bob passed away just a couple years into the history of the company. Just a horrible battle with cancer that he lost, which was very, very heartbreaking. And Gary built a fantastic business
In Austin, started in Austin.
He saw the concept in Austin and then moved up here and opened the first 3 locations and then started franchising. Gary sold to Rourke in 2003 and stayed on as CEO, which was a fantastic thing to do. And then I think decided that his heart was more in the mountains of Colorado. And he and Rourke he let Rourke know that he wanted to retire, and then Rourke looked around and thankfully they picked me. This recession in 2008 and 2009, interestingly, was the first time FASTSIGNS ever had a decrease in same-center sales. Having it be the first recession that affected them, the company was not quick enough to respond to help our franchisees make those tough decisions of reducing expenses and improving cash flow and making sure that they were doing everything they could.
And they were angry. They were unhappy. Let's say unhappy.
I would, yes, whenever sales go down and whenever you're facing that kind of tough economic situation, I would say that that's a time of turmoil and dissatisfaction. So the first thing I did coming on board in January of 2009 was spend a lot of time in the field. I conducted a 28-city town hall tour. I was face-to-face and toe-to-toe with close to 300 of our franchisees and asked, what are we doing well? What could we do better? What are we not doing that we should be doing? And what are we doing that's just stupid and we should stop? And then gathered all that information. Concurrently, we implemented an initiative that we called Operation Fast Forward. And it was a very tactical, very directed initiative to help our franchisees grow their sales volume, lower their expenses, and improve their cash flow. And sometimes that meant we were helping them renegotiate site leases, which we were able to do in that economy, which you might not be able to do ever in a booming economy. And this is a tough thing, sometimes we were helping them right-size their organization. Nobody ever likes to lay anybody off, but if what you need to do to keep the company healthy so that you can employ the rest of the team is to downsize, we counseled people on that. We spent a lot of time negotiating with our vendors to get better prices and price concessions so that we were lowering their purchase costs. And the end result is, starting in 2010, we rebounded to have positive same-center sales growth.
But you also opened the books. I mean, the financial situation had been a secret. Only the executive committee could know.
Well, that's...
And didn't you have a monthly meeting where you explained, here's where we are?
I happen to truly believe that the knowledgeable and educated workforce will make smarter decisions than the one that doesn't know. And I began, soon after I arrived, having monthly company meetings. In the past, we had quarterly company meetings. I started having monthly company meetings, and I shared our financial performance all the way down to earnings after taxes. I thought it was important for every one of my team members to know what is happening inside the company.
Is this your group in Carrollton, your 100+ people in Carrollton you're meeting with, or are these the conference calls you have with your franchisees?
As far as sharing the corporate company's financial results, that is with my team of employees, my corporate staff, which totals 108 people today. I do hold Connect with Catherine conference calls open to all of our franchisees about every 5 to 6 weeks.
So you wanted in 2009 to help your franchise partners sell more, get more customers, sell more to the customers they had. How do you help them with the selling? Do you have a sales force that's working on behalf of them, or is it working on behalf of selling more franchises? How does that work?
Well, let's first talk about how do we help our existing franchisees, the over 550 locations we have today, how do we help them build their business? First, it starts with protecting and building and enhancing the brand, building that brand recognition. That's through all of our advertising and our marketing programs. We also initiated in January of 2010 a very focused outside sales initiative, and there are 2 parts to it. The first part is to teach our franchisee to be a great outside sales manager, because any good salesperson needs management. And we have a very in-depth training program, recruiting program, and incentive program then once our franchisee hires an outside salesperson, to then train that outside salesperson to be successful. I have 3 people on my corporate staff whose only job is to coach and counsel our franchisees' outside salespeople. And as more outside salespeople are added, we'll add more of what we call those sales development coaches. We're up now to 295 or so outside salespeople in 220 of our locations. On one hand, I see that's fantastic adoption.
But you're only halfway there.
But I'm only halfway there. So if I look at launching a program in 2010, that's fantastic adoption through today. But I also know that I'm only halfway there.
Miles to go before you sleep.
Miles. There's no rest for me. No, I'm miles to go until I sleep. You're exactly right.
You got out of the recession. All of a sudden, the company was back on its feet, and you had to do something because the company had imitators.
Lots of imitators.
And so you had to reposition FASTSIGNS in the market. What did you do?
Well, let me just back up first and say that I think every great brand will reinvent itself over time to remain relevant in the market. There are always going to be changes, customer changes, competitive changes, technological changes, right? So when this company was founded in 1985, it was founded because of a technological advancement, the desktop computer that allowed us to computer cut vinyl in the shapes of letters. And what it did is it put a lot of hand sign painters out of business. Our younger audience may not remember, but in the olden days that I remember, you'd walk up to a store window and all of the writing was hand painted on that window. So at the time, in 1985, our brand positioning was the one-day sign and lettering experts. Well, that wouldn't be good brand positioning at all today. We've gone through several brand positions in the 29 years we've been in business. Back about 12 years ago, we positioned ourselves as being sign and graphic solutions made simple. And we truly were much easier to do business with for customers and prospects than our competitors were. And they, over time, started to imitate us, exactly right. And we needed to reposition and really find our place to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. And we did a lot of market research. Our research company spoke to a lot of our customers, to a lot of our competitors' customers, to prospective customers, really understanding what they need. We then took that research and we hired this fabulous branding agency here in Dallas called Avery Foster. We knew we wanted to take the company to have expanded products and services, more of a consultative, value-added value proposition for our customers. And they're the ones who then boiled that all down to more than, with our brand idea being more than, and our tagline being more than fast and more than signs.
Well, now you say that you're selling visual communications, visual ideas.
Exactly right.
Well, now who's going to have those ideas? Do you have creative people with you? Somebody has to have the ideas.
Exactly right. Well, first, part of how we're different from many sources of signs and visual graphics is every single one of our locations has a graphic designer, someone who is really good at taking ideas and putting them into a visual form. But we also spend time and give our franchisees and their outside salespeople and inside salespeople time training them and tools and resources so they really become that marketing savvy consultant.
You were in the printing business before you joined FASTSIGNS.
I was.
For a number of years.
I was hired by Sir Speedy in 1980, and it was part of the management team that took that company from 200 locations to over 850. And then over those years of growth, we bought a printing franchise competitor in Europe called Multicopy. I think it was probably 1995 that we had that acquisition, and then a couple years later, we purchased what had been called Postal Instant Press, but then was shortened to be Pip Printing. We bought that company as well.
And you became president of that.
I became president of that company as well, yes.
Well, now, were you living in Los Angeles all this time? You went to Europe for a while.
I had an apartment in Amsterdam. When we bought Multicopy Europe, the corporate office was in Amsterdam, and I managed that company for 2.5 years. And at the time, I was married, and my husband did not want to relocate to Amsterdam, so I commuted. So I did 2 weeks in
Amsterdam to L.A.?
2 weeks a month in Amsterdam and 2 weeks a month in Southern California. And my body never knew where it was. It was someplace, some time zone between the two, but it was never in the right one. But it was a great experience to run a company in Europe. I think I developed, my management skills really were developed during that time.
To quote you again, you had been somewhat autocratic,
Right.
very autocratic. And then in Europe, you learned to be more consensual.
Well, you need to be a bit more collaborative. You need to
yes.
build collaboration.
So
Because,
how do you build consensus?
well, I think that you get people involved, get your team members involved in the decision-making process. You let them be part of, involve them in the business planning process. You ask for their ideas. You ask a lot of questions, and you take their great ideas, decide which ones you need to implement. Because as you know, every company, doesn't matter if it's a company, a person, an organization, is resource constrained, right? No company has unlimited resources. And so you have to prioritize where you're going to put your time, energy, and efforts. And so you get all those great ideas from your people, and you decide which ones you're going to implement.
Well, you are doing a number of things right now, it seems to me. You have an ambition to increase your revenues to $900 million a year, your locations to 1,000, over 20 countries. And you're moving right now into new countries, are you not? United Arab Emirates?
We just signed a master franchise agreement for United Arab Emirates, a letter of intent for 4 countries in Northern Africa.
You're already in Saudi Arabia.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. We opened our first location in Saudi Arabia in 2012, and 2 more locations will open this year in Saudi Arabia.
And you're in the UK and Canada and Australia, the Commonwealth.
And Brazil and Mexico,
Mexico.
Grand Cayman Islands. We are actively looking for international expansion.
You have said that people who are successful, from your observation, have 5 different qualities.
As I've talked to successful people, as I read biographies, as I've studied successful people, I really believe there are 5 common characteristics that all highly successful people share. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about being the best parent, the best minister, the best leader, the best politician. They're all the same. And it's positive mental attitude, goal-directed behavior, self-motivation, sense of urgency, and never stopping learning. And I do believe, and I have learned, that all of those are learned skills. I grew up in an abusive alcoholic home, and
This was your mother.
this is my mother. I'm very open about my background because I think that is where I learned that even though I grew up in an alcoholic abusive home where I was told I was the reason for the alcoholism and I was the reason the marriage didn't work, which would make you feel pretty badly about yourself.
Your parents' marriage.
Yes. And so Mom told me I was the reason for all the problems in her life. That would lead to low self-esteem and feeling bad about yourself. I had to learn that I'm responsible for how I feel about myself. I'm responsible for my outlook on life. And so I feed my mind positive messages every day. I keep a journal of positive quotes. I get 3 different emails a day with positive messages. I have learned what I used to do when I suffered from depression is I would do what I call piling on, and I'd feel bad about something. And that would lead me to think of something else I could feel badly about, which would lead me to something else I could feel badly. And then I could just pile on and get to be very, very sad and depressed. Through some great psychologists or therapists and also reading, I've learned that when I start to do that, to yell stop to myself. I have a brother who broke his neck when he was 16. He's a quadriplegic. He can't get out of bed by himself. He can't bathe himself. There's lots of stuff he can't do. But he has decided to have a positive attitude. There are lots of people who would give him permission to hate life. He chooses not to do that. I've met other people who are paralyzed like my brother who have not made that decision, right? Who do hate life and make that life worse for themselves because of that outlook. And I really believe that that positive mental attitude is learned.
Well, let's talk about Undercover Boss.
All right,
you
let's
did
talk
that
about
on
Undercover
May the
Boss.
4th, 2012.
Exactly.
A really remarkable show,
Thank
fantastic
you.
show. And you visited 4 of your franchise operators, St. Louis, Austin, Culver City, and Phoenix.
Yep.
You learned a lot. What did you learn?
Learned a lot. Well, one, I learned that maybe I should have gone to school and learned to make signs before I was on Undercover Boss, so I wouldn't make a fool of myself. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you hadn't done signs before.
I had not done signs before, and perhaps some people might fault me for that. But the key things that I took away from that, one was just a great appreciation and respect for our team members, our franchisees and their employees, and how absolutely committed they are to customer satisfaction and helping our customers achieve their objectives. I did find first that we had an area of weakness in our training. We had not provided the training to our franchisees and their employees that was necessary for large outdoor project management.
That means going up in a lift. You did it
yes,
yourself.
you saw me going up in a lift and all
swaying back and forth.
swaying
And
back
you had to
forth.
do 32 holes, drill holes in a wall.
That's
And you
exactly right.
cratered after 15. I don't know how you lasted that long.
And I had some really sore muscles a day and 2 days later. But we then hired an outside expert who put together a complete training curriculum and training program for us, who's taught several seminars and webinars for us. So we're now providing that training to our franchisees.
Well, you said you learned quite a lot about yourself also.
I did. I learned that I perhaps need a bit more balance in my life. I'm not sure I've achieved that yet. I did intend at the end of that filming to find a horse here in Dallas and do some more
Because you
horseback
love
riding
horseback
because I
riding.
love horseback
In
riding.
fact, you said that it saw you through a lot of
A lot of
pain.
my childhood trauma, horses got me through that, exactly right.
Have you found a horse?
You know, I spent some time looking, and then I will admit that I haven't fulfilled that commitment.
This was 2012. This is 2014.
Hey, here's the important thing. I identified ways we could improve the business, and I got those done right away.
Yeah. Catherine, you grew up in California, and your father had 3 preschools, and you worked in them, didn't you?
You know, I grew up in a family business, and I have said to many folks, I think I learned more about business and dealing with customers and just basic business fundamentals working in the family business. I can remember probably being 10 or 11 years old, and I would go to the preschools with my dad on the weekends, and we would clean, you know, they make tiny toilets for tiny little bottoms, who would have known? And I'd clean the toilets and mow the lawn and clean the kitchen and mop the floors. And then as I got a little older, I would do office work. And at one 2-week period when I was a senior in high school, both mom and dad were in the hospital for unrelated things, and I didn't go to school, and I ran the business for 2 weeks. I mean, just great experience. And it was through that I really knew that I wanted a career in business, that I wanted to someday run a company of my own. And I really look back on those days working in the family business with great fondness.
You went to Pepperdine, and you studied business administration there.
Absolutely. And I tell you, if you really want a great college experience, I think Pepperdine University at Malibu is the place to go, because literally we would study on the beach. It didn't get any better than that.
Did you go from there to Sir Speedy?
You know, I had 2 positions before that. In fact, I think it's so funny. It took me 2 weeks to get a job after I graduated from college, and my dad was disappointed. He thought I should have had a job before I graduated, but it did take me 2 weeks. My first job was with Fluor Engineers and Constructors.
Oh, yes, we've had that CEO on this program. It's an excellent company. Moved here from
sure
Southern
is.
California.
It sure is. One of those companies that moved here for the better business climate in Texas. And I was hired as one of 32 college grads as they were ramping up for a big refinery factory they thought they were going to get the contract for in Iran. They didn't get it, and so they started laying folks off. I was the only of that group of 32 that didn't get laid off, but there wasn't work and I was bored, so I started looking for another job. I was hired by Beckman Instruments as a purchasing agent or a buyer, and I absolutely loved it. It was so much fun, and I graduated to buying semiconductors and EPROMs, and it was just really exciting. And then one day I woke up about 2.5 years, 3 years into that career and realized that purchasing managers never become CEO, and my goal since high school was to be CEO of a company. And I left Beckman Instruments solely to get back into a track to become a CEO. And what are the traditional tracks would be sales and marketing, finance, or engineering. I'm not an engineer. I understand finance, but sales and marketing is my real love. So I was looking for a sales or marketing job and got hired in 1980 by a little franchise company called Sir Speedy Printing Centers as a sales coordinator, and stayed with that company for 28 years, worked my way up through the ranks, and it led to where I am today.
You told an interviewer that you'll try anything once, including skydiving. Have you done that?
Yes, I have jumped out of a perfectly well operating plane at 12,800 feet, and I would do that again. Skydiving is a load of fun. In addition to skydiving, I've done paragliding, gliding, parasailing, jet skiing, snow machining, try anything as fast as I can. I love speed, and I just think part of what keeps life fresh is trying new things and trying everything.
Well, I have no doubt you'll try new things at Fast Signs, Catherine. Good luck there, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Lee. It has been really a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.
To learn more, go to kera.org/CEO. CEO is made possible in part by Sewell Automotive Companies, representing 9 automotive marks with locations in Dallas, Grapevine, Plano, and Fort Worth. Sewell, obsessed with service since 1911. Hodges Capital Management, providing an array of mutual funds, including multi-cap, small-cap, blue-chip, equity income, and contrarian. HodgesCapital.com. Naveen Jindal School of Management's executive education at UT Dallas, providing educational programs to help corporate professionals stay ahead. execed.utdallas.edu. And by the valued support of KERA members. Thank you.